Hi, entrepreneurial moms. Hi, gorgeous. So, I'm just going to wait a minute for people to get on. I wanted to talk today about a few things that have been coming up a lot. This is not exactly planned, so just whatever happens, happens. Okay, so if you are getting on, just go ahead and say hi in the chat bar. Okay, so one of the first things that I wanted to talk about is how today we went to go see some dolphins. Hey, as you're hopping on, just say hi in the comments. We went to go on a boat ride, and the guy was like, hey, Linda. The guy was like, okay, now you are going to probably see some dolphins right when you leave, like I don't know what it's called, the thing that stops the waves. So he's like, once we pass that area, you're probably going to see dolphins if we see them at all. And we're like, okay, so we're looking really hard. We're like, oh my God, where are these dolphins? Like, we really need to see them. We really wanted to see them. That was the whole point. We were out there, right? And so we were like not seeing them, and we just like kept going, and we're looking everywhere, and we couldn't see any dolphins. And so then the boat turns around. Hey, Naomi. The boat turns around, and the guy's like, and we're like, okay, I guess we're turning back around, and we didn't see any dolphins. We started to get a little bit upset. And my husband the whole time was like, we're not going to see dolphins. This is not really what it is. He didn't really believe me that you could see dolphins. We live in near Corpus Christi, and so I was told that you could do this in the summertime and probably see dolphins, so I really wanted to do it. And so he's like, nah, you can't see dolphins here. That's not true. He's like totally like doubting that it's even possible. And so we turn around, and the guy's like, I'm going to go over here by this like shrimp fisherman. And sure enough, we saw like the first couple, and we were like, oh my God, this is really happening. We're really seeing dolphins. Like, we were just like in shock. And of course, like, you get out your phone, you're like trying to take pictures. I did not capture not even one picture of a dolphin, which was extremely frustrating, but I was trying to enjoy the moment. And hey, Sandra. And my husband had like his phone, his like super fancy camera, and I don't know if he caught anything or not. So what is the point of this hugely long story? The point is, in your business, you are not going to see those fruits of your labor at first. Like when we were first leaving the dock and we first left the area where like the waves are stopping, we're looking everywhere, and we were turning around, and we really thought like we were not going to get to see dolphins today. So the point is, if you don't persist through that difficult point in your business, if you don't continue on past that point, and if you don't keep your faith that you will be able to make it work, if you're going to, don't keep your faith that it is possible for you, you will not see the dolphins. And the dolphins is whatever you want it to be in your business. It could be, success on your terms. I don't like to define success for anybody, because the more and more I've been thinking about it, thanks, Sandra. The more and more I've been thinking about it, the more I'm realizing that success means something so different for everybody. And it's not anything that anybody can define for you. And I love that Lisa brought this up this week, because as I've been thinking about my podcast and what kinds of questions I'm going to be asking people, this is one of the questions that really, really is important to me. The podcast, you're going to get to hear it first, is going to be called the Mom Entrepreneur Success Podcast. And I was having some trepidations about naming it, with the word success in it. And I want to bring that totally to the forefront and have every guest on there define success for them, because I cannot define success for people, and neither can anybody else. You're the only one that can define it for yourself. And once you know what that looks like for you, you can finally say, yes, I've gotten there. nobody can say, no, you haven't. Nobody can say, well, you haven't made $1 million, so that's not good enough. It's only good enough when you define it and when you realize what it is for you. So that's my big lesson for today, right? Like, persist through that moment of doubt, persist through that moment that it's getting really hard, and persist and see, because the Dolphins didn't all come at once, right? Like, it was like one, right? And I think in business that would be like, okay, now you grew your Facebook group by now you're at 100 people, right? And some people would just shove it off and be like, that's not good enough. I need 1,000 people, right? Like, some people would say, okay, well, that's not a paying client. That's not good enough. Some people would say, whatever, right? Like, there's so many doubts that we bring up to ourselves. And I think that we just talk to ourselves in such a negative way, right? That we would never talk like that to our children. If it was our child, we would say, you're doing awesome, keep going, right? And that little tiny baby dolphin is going, and you're like, okay, that's just the start of your momentum. And this momentum piece is really, really important, right? Like, once you start to see and acknowledge those tiny little signs, that's when you start to have breakthroughs. It's not overnight. And I know people are like, oh my God, but you did it overnight. No, I didn't. Not at all. I had a previous business for a whole year. I worked my ass off to get to where I am today. And I'm going to continue to work my ass off to where I want to be, right? So it's never really going to be perfect. And you're only seeing it's like an iceberg, right? And you're seeing the very tippy top. You're not seeing all the work that goes into it. So another part of this message is, don't compare yourself to others, right? But acknowledge those amazing little tiny wins. And which is why I love doing Wins Wednesday. Okay. Now I want to talk. Hey, Natalie. Hi, Kira. So now I want to talk a little bit about what if your husband doesn't support you. And I think that this topic ties really nicely with what we've been talking about, because it challenges you even more. If your husband is not supportive, it challenges you even more to keep a sure vision. So, my husband thinks I'm nuts. Well, I shouldn't say thinks. He used to think I was nuts. For even starting a business, for even considering this. When I bought rental property when I was 23 and started my landlord business, he was like, you're nuts. What are you doing? Right? And I was like, no, I'm 23. I need passive income, right? So your husband may not be entrepreneurial, or he might just not get it. He might be like, what are you doing online? That's all of the stuff that my husband said. And he's like, it's taking up entirely too much time, and all these kinds of negative things. Well, if that is your husband, thanks for sharing, Natalie. Natalie says that this is an important conversation because that's the same for her. Yes. And oh man, the ants are getting me. So if that is your husband, it is even more crucial for you to keep your vision of what you want and what success means to you. And, have that so defined and so clear to you so that you can really stay focused, right? And believe in yourself. Do the mindset work. The mindset piece is so important. I was recently interviewed for a podcast, and she asked me, she said, how's your husband? Was he supportive or not? And that's why I wanted to get talking about this more openly, because my husband was not supportive, like I said. And that has been a complete 180 since I started making more money. When I first started to make a lot more money, and I was making the same as my corporate income, he was like, okay, this is awesome. And it wasn't until maybe 2 months ago that we looked at my daughter and we're like, oh my God, she's almost 1, and she hasn't even had a rash on her bottom. And he even told me, he's like, she is so well taken care of now that she's home, because our son was sick every other week at daycare and he had horrible rashes, and just, it wasn't until that moment that he saw the drastic difference that he acknowledged that this was something that was working. Okay, it was not the money at first, not when I made enough to cover my corporate income. Okay, that was not the point. It was seeing our kids, and like that was what made him buy into it. Now this month I more than doubled my corporate income, and I hate talking about money that much, but this month he was like, okay, you're onto something. And it has taken me a year and 7 months for him to get on board with online business. That doesn't even count. I was 23 when I started my first business as a landlord, and he was not supportive of that either. Okay, so how many years is that in total? 7 years. What I'm saying though is that your husband may or may not be supportive. It's about you having a strong vision and you still persisting and doing what you think is right for you and your family. And I found support through other people. I had coaches, I had mentors, I have really good entrepreneurial friends who support me in that way. And when it came to my business, I couldn't talk to my husband about it. Now, like I said, he's way more open about it, but I don't really ask him for decisions, like in that way. The other thing that I did is I started saying to myself, I'm just going to prove him wrong, especially with this online business thing, because he was like way more skeptical of it than he was with the house. My neighbors think I'm nuts. So it was a huge 180. And so I had to keep thinking and like seriously focused so that I could just be like, I'm going to prove him wrong. And I knew in my gut and like with every cell and fiber of my being that I was going to make this work and that I was going to prove him wrong. Okay. So when I've talked before about like, how do you believe in yourself? Like that is how much you have to believe in yourself to make it work. Because there are people that are going to doubt. Oh, sorry, my alarm went off. So there are people that are going to doubt you. There's people that are going to, wonder if this is the right thing for you. And they're doing it out of caring. They care for you. They don't want to see you hurt. So when you acknowledge that and just say, okay, I'm not going to let their, worry about me matter, because I know I'm going to make this work, right? Like it's not being cocky or arrogant. It's just knowing inside of you that you're going to make it work. Okay. So that was my talk for today. What do you guys want to talk about? Like, is there anything specifically about any of these topics that you want to chat about? Let me know. I can stick around for a few minutes. Hey, if you're just joining, say hi. Okay, so I don't know if there's a delay or if nobody has anything else to talk about with this topic. I know this is a real personal topic, but I know I'm not the only one going through stuff like this, because a lot of my clients have brought stuff like this up, and so I wanted to be real open and honest with you guys about it, and kind of like my take. And you don't have to do it how I have, but this is kind of how I have handled it. And just coming from like a place of they're trying to protect me, they just are looking out for me, and totally allowing yourself to believe in yourself either way, and that's what this group is here for, right? Like that's what we're here for you for support. We're here for you to make friendships and reach out to people that's what the point of these groups are, right? So, and you know, I'm all about personal connection. So make a deeper personal connection and make some friends online. And, you know, I've been notorious for doing like Friday night coffee chats with people over Skype because my kids, you know, still need me to watch them on Sunday and Friday and Saturday and every day. I just thought it was me. Yeah, Natalie, you're totally not alone in that. And not everybody's husband is entrepreneurial or supportive or any of those things. And it's totally, I think it's more common than people really talk about. Okay, so that was a deep one. So in short, just keep going. You guys are doing awesome. Acknowledge every win. Acknowledge every little victory. Don't, you know, doubt yourself. Don't stop believing in the fact that you can do this, and keep going, and you're doing awesome. Okay, so let me I'm going to link below to a post I did on some questions and some reflection questions that you can journal about to make sure that your business is not on a crash diet. It's a blog post that I did with a downloadable worksheet. So that can I think that ties nicely with this topic and will give you a little bit more to think about as you're building your business for maximum success and long-term profitability. Because that's really the point, right? With all the mindset stuff, it's about having success over the long term, not a short-term game. Hi, Mary Catherine. Oh my God, she's here. I love Mary Catherine Johnson. I've been following her podcast for a very, very, very long time. Everyone go check it out. And I do talk about it sometimes on my blog. Okay, so have an awesome day, everybody. And I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.